Cocoon's perspective.
I'm exhausted. Emotionally, intellectually, and physically. My face still stings and my palp still aches, healing from the wounds inflicted in my fight with that murderer, though they have both been tended to by the healers, who also gave me drugs to numb the pain. Acting as Regent has meant that not only have I had to take care of all of my usual duties, but also every decision that ought to be going through my father is instead falling to me. And that includes all the coordination of this election. Bitterly, I reflect that having all of the other realm's brood kings and first women gathered in the city did expedite things when my father was killed. It would have taken months otherwise, and some may never have made it here. The idea that there might be such a thing as a convenient time for my father to have been murdered does rankle me, though. No off-worlders or Twig are present here, at my request. This is internal business of the Quarrakan Empire, and the presence of outsiders to it would only be disruptive. Choosing a new ruler of the Vrakhand should be done by the Vrakhand. The only concession I made was allowing a drone to be present to record the election for later analysis, mainly by the tall, bipedal, pale blue-skinned and impossibly slender political analyst with the elongated head, who smells of seafood. Wayaval. It hovers above the court in the same place it's been since the start, unobtrusive enough that I keep almost forgetting about it. The only people present are the first women, brood kings, and a few men here to count the votes. This isn't a flat vote like with the two juries the other day. Each realm is assigned voting power by multiple different factors including population, military projection, and the rather nebulous qualification of prestige. Smaller, weaker, less prestigious realms' votes matter less. Larger, stronger, more prestigious realms, more. If a brood king and first woman from the same realm vote differently, they split and diminish their realm's voting power. Each one voting with 50 out of 121 of the power they would have had united. Of course, by the nature of what this election is for, Quarrek's vote is not only by far the most powerful, but also the only one not capable of being split, represented, as it is, only by myself. I might feel bad for that, but for the fact that none of the other realms ever need to take any account of outside influence when selecting their new brood kings. Currently embodying the Empire, it is fitting for my vote to be outsized. The voting algorithm is complicated enough that multiple different realms requested to each, independently, have mathematically inclined boys brought in to count the votes, serving as both honesty and sanity checkers for each other. They stand around the witnesses' platform, each holding an abacus, and whenever a round of voting happens, furiously clack away to calculate the total. Usually they agree. When they don't, it requires a tedious recount. My uncle, Cravash, has just had the 5th son he's nominated rejected, and I'm beginning to wish my father's will has stipulated a limit on the amount of nominees each realm can put forward. At this rate, we're going to have to individually reject every male in Wakash. He opens his mouth, clearly to nominate another son, but someone else speaks first. I have a nomination, shouts first woman, Huakath, rising to her feet. My uncle looks as if he wishes to object, but seems to realize how, but I'm not done listing potential puppets for myself, would sound as an objection. Make your nomination, Lady Huakath, I invite from the head of the court, behind the magistrate's platform. I'm curious, but not hopeful. Practically every nomination made thus far has been nakedly driven by nothing more than each realm's ambition to place a sympathetic emperor on the throne. The few that haven't have been quickly ruled unsuitable for other reasons. I nominate Regent Cocoon, she shouts, looking directly at me. There is a moment of shock, followed by raucous laughter at the ridiculous suggestion. Need I remind you that my brood husband has already been rejected as unsuitable, Lady Horkath? I asked neutrally over the din. Yes, but my nomination was not for Kirku of Nimor, it was for Kirkoan of Quaware, she responds defiantly. Preposterous, spits my uncle. Women are too short-lived and too violent for leadership. There has never been a female ruler. Until 50 years ago, there has never been a male one either, counters Horkath. And as to us being short-lived, that's not the case anymore, is it? We are entering into a new era, one where women have the potential to live just as long and become just as wise as men. This era is going to be defined by our relationship with the foreigners, both Twig and Offwelder. Kirkoan has repeatedly proven she is the best person for managing our relationship with them, which is exactly why we already agreed on her as the best choice to represent us to the GU. Isn't it a little hasty and perhaps short-sighted to be selecting our new ruler based on the times we're living through? Asks my father-in-law, Lord Horwach, sounding genuinely skeptical. I agree that things are about to change for us, enormously, but a change like this, it seems ill-advised. I disagree, announces Hurkos, first woman of Vesh, the second most powerful woman of the Northern Confederation, backing up the first. I think adapting with the times is precisely what we ought to be doing. The foreigners have no need to separate male from female. They assign leadership on merit. I posit that there is none so meriting the rulership of our empire as Kirkoan of Quawach. I second Horkath's nomination. I sigh. I'm flattered, of course, but as the first woman pointed out, I've already been selected as the Quawakan Empire's representative to the Galactic Union. Electing me as Empress would mean having to choose another to represent us. The feminization of the word I've only ever heard in its masculine form, sitting strangely in my mouth. Well, that's not true, suggests Brew King Mirko of Korva. How often do any of the realms actually require Quawak's direct intervention on anything? Once? Twice a year? You could appoint a regent or council to rule in your name, and so long as they aren't wildly incompetent, they'd likely be able to hold the fort until you either return or we receive the promised communication installation that would allow you to talk to us from the galactic capital, at which point you could rule almost as effectively from there as Quaware. I also think it might give a favorable impression to this parliament if we were to send our ruler to represent us there. I'm in favor of installing you as the first Quawakan Empress. Any regent or council appointed by a woman would be women also. This would be but the first step to the rise of a matriarchal tyranny, screeches Brew King Velnor, outraged. Since time immemorial, it has been the way that women control matters of war, and men control matters of state. Investing both into one sex is too much power. It's ripe for abuse. How long would it be before we were back to the same barbarities that caused our descent into the Warring Realms period? Resource raids, groom kidnapping. Women are simply too violent and ambitious to be trusted with leadership. I will be voting nay. One of the vote counters here thinks to flip the bees on his abacus to represent Vilnor and Miriko's pre-declared votes. The others quickly copy the action. I speak. I can't say I entirely disagree with you, Vilnor. Being both Empress and First Woman of Quaware is far too much power for one individual. If I were to take the throne, I would need to select a replacement to my role as head of the military, and I would need to be mindful that whoever I choose to rule in my stead were trustworthy. I would appoint a council of men who would advise first my regent, then myself. I have no interest in creating a society where men become second-class citizens. For my part, I will be abstaining from this vote. It will be up to the realms as to whether to trust me with the throne. The vote counter boy's eyes go wide as they slide an enormous portion of the bees to the center of the most valuable bottom row of their respective abacuses to represent the vote I've indicated I won't be casting. I probably would have had enough voting power to effectively float or sink my own ascension single-handedly. With my vote withdrawn, I judge it to be anyone's game. Shall we commence the vote, or does anyone have anything else to say regarding my candidacy? I do, objects my uncle. What about your eyes? You expect us to install you as ruler with only 6 eyes? 6 eyes and a shattered pedipalp? Funny how you never raised an objection to her father having no working eyes, Lord Cravash, says Hercuff pointedly. Her father was a man. His full blindness was a function of his advanced age, not a wound he sustained in a fight to the death with a monster, he bickers. So now you're faulting her for representing our people in the administration of justice against a murderer, risking her life to do so? What? Emiko's perspective. Myself and the others waiting for the announcement are in the harbour plaza when I see them. Clofleti woman, whereof, was watching the broadcast live until I pointed out to her that she had promised not to, and she suddenly turned it off. She stands, putting my head level with her spindly bare thigh, and leans forward eagerly. Kakoan leads the procession of all her empire's movers and shakers. Her uncle carries her father's crown in his hands, indicating an emperor has been chosen, but looks like someone has pissed in his udon. I'm guessing he wasn't able to get one of his sons or nephews on the Quarakan throne to act as his puppet. I frown as I see Kakoan take position in the middle of the square, on the same platform her father's body was butchered on last week, and kneel down. Confused murmurs emanate from the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen of Quaware, sneers Quafash petulantly, placing the diadem of iron and thanatite atop the head of his niece, who's all as tall as him, kneeling. I give you your new empress, Kakoan of the Quarakan realm, daughter of Brood King Achog of the Quarakan realm, and first woman Kvehak of the Wakashan realm. There is a protracted pause of stunned silence. Then, a joyous roar erupts from the crowd.